నమస్కారం. డాక్టర్ బిఆర్ అంబేద్కర్ సార్వత్రిక విశ్వవిద్యాలయం విద్యార్థిని విద్యార్థులకు స్వాగతం.
Hello students, today we are going to discuss a very important and very interesting and thought-provoking lesson on freshwater pearl culture. India is having the bio-wealth of nearly 50,000 freshwater mussels. Among these 50,000, only 3,000 are useful for the pearl culture activities. These three species are Lamellidens marginalis and Lamellidens coreanis and Parisia corrugata. Here you can see the Lamellidens marginalis species. All these freshwater mussels comes under the phylum Mollusca and class Bivalvia or Pellicypoda. And these black, headless and dumped creatures on the earth which comes under bivalvia, when get irritates, it gives out the most precious gem, that is the pearls. Or the pearl is an icon with cool luster and soft nature body. And while giving out the pearl to outside, the only way is we have to sacrifice the animal. This is really a thought-provoking sentence, that is, we have to sacrifice the animal in order to get the pearls from inside the body cavity. And now we will switch over to the second part of our discussion, that is the pearl culture. Here we have got one resource person from Sifa, Orissa, Bhubaneswar, Orissa. He is a former director of Central Institute of Freshwater Aquaculture, Dr. Janakiram. And Dr. Janakiram will continue his lecture on freshwater pearl culture.
My young friends, welcome to the exciting world of pearls. Pearl is such a fascinating subject to all the people. You, me and whoever walks on the street is interested about pearls. Let us try to unravel about pearls, their culture procedures and methods involved. Now I would say freshwater pearl culture, which is just about dawning in the aquaculture horizon of India. Freshwater pearl culture is akin to cash crops of land-based agriculture. The aquaculture pearls is a different cup of tea. Let us see what it is all about in the coming few slides. Then coming to the economic importance of pearl culture, the farming of pearls in terms of value is one of the world's leading aquaculture industries. Here I am quoting Dr. C. Richard Fazler, who is economic advisor in the field of aquaculture to the United States of America. He said during 1991 in one international symposium, a catfish grower may smile when he can get 80 cents for a pound of fish he produces. And a shrimp raiser means farmer, will be happy with about $6 per every pound of shrimps he produces. A pearl farmer on the other hand will receive an average price of about $27,000 plus US dollar for a pound of his product. Now you can see the differential returns from base food crops to semi-cash crops to real cash crop like pearls. It is reported The demand for pearls in the current international markets is well over 3 billion US dollars. According to official reports, I underline the word official, India is spending more than 300 billion rupees every year for import of cultured pearls from China and Japan to meet the ever growing market demand in the country. And we are now today talking about freshwater pearl culture and its advantages. Freshwater pearl culture is advantageous in terms of commercial scale availability of natural stocks of pearl mussels in easily accessible habitats, wider area of farming even in the non-maritime regions of the country, operational easiness in the management of freshwater culture environment quite unlike open sea, absence of natural fouling, boring and predatory organisms, and overall the cost effectiveness of the operations. So, realizing the scope and importance and potentials of inland pearl culture, the CIFA, Central Institute of Freshwater Aquaculture, located at Bhubaneswar, Orissa, where I have worked till recently, has in recent years developed an indigenous technology of growing pearls. None of the people here had been to China or Japan, nor anyone came from China and Japan to teach us about the technology of pearl culture. Welcome to CIFA Technology of Freshwater Pearl Culture, my friends. Then you may ask me, what is the base technology involved at CIFA? There are 6 basic steps involved in the gamut of freshwater pearl culture technology. Number 1 is obviously the collection of raw material, the biological material, collection of mussels, then pre-operative conditioning, then implantation of nuclein grafts, then post-operative care of the implanted mussels, then pond culture of the operated mussels in the natural pond environment, then at the end of the culture period harvest of the mussels and pearls for utilization. These are the 6 steps which we will discuss a little more in detail as we sail along into the world of pearls, pearl technology. Friends probably may ask me, what are the candidate species involved in the CIFA technology of freshwater pearl culture in our country? These are the 3 species which are commonly available. Actually, if you look into the freshwater bodies throughout the country, there are more than 50 species, of which the first group, Lemurlens marginalis, is a typical stagnant water species, and then second one is an amphibious mussel called Lemurlens coreanus, and the third one is Parisia corrugata, which is a riverine or stream habit mussel. These are available throughout the length and breadth of the country. Then after I just mentioned among the 6 steps of the freshwater pearl culture technology, obviously the most important one is a collection of mussels. Live mussels around 8 to 10 centimeters in shell length, obviously they weigh around 50 grams and above in wet weight, are collected from the natural habitats and transferred to laboratory in split bamboo or plastic containers like this. This is quite useful for short distance transport. In case long distance transport involving more than 24 or 48 hours are involved, in such a case the individual mussels are wrapped with wet cotton or wet cloth and transported over to the operating house. So, the desiccation is minimized, there is no injury to the mussels, the mortality will be almost minimum. Then the second step is pre-operative conditioning. A mussel which is freshly brought from the field is having powerful adductor muscles still operating, hence it is very difficult to operate these muscles. Hence it is required to keep the muscles in crowded conditions for about 48 hours in this sort of plastic or cement tanks, so that the resultant toxicants by the respiration and metabolic activities of the mussels make the animal slightly supple in preparation for surgery. Then the next most important and crucial step is the pearl mussel surgery. The pearl mussel surgical procedures can be divided into three methods: mantle insertion method, mantle tissue implantation method, then gonadal implantation method. And what are the products? In the case of mantle cavity insertion method, you get shell attached half round pearls or design pearls. In case of mantle tissue implantation, where it is non-nucleated or nucleated, what are they? I will come to a little later. The products are unattached, irregular to small round pearls, which are seen in the mantle tissue because the implantation is done in the mantle tissue area. Then finally, the gonad implantation method, in which the products are again unattached, regular, slightly larger round pearls. These are the three different methods. I can say mantle cavity by far is the easiest method, and the success rate is more than 75 to 80%. Mantle tissue implantation method is also relatively simple, and we are not touching any vital organs, hence the trauma on the part of the animal is the minimum. So, the chance of getting more than 70% of pearl formation are indicated in mantle tissue. However, the problematic implantation method is a gonad implantation, where we are tampering a vital organ like gonad, hence the chance of infection and rejection of nucleus are more. I would say the percentage success of pearl formation in this particular method is around 20-25%. With experience, it can be brought up to 45 or 50%, not beyond that. Then coming to the different methods which I just mentioned, mantle cavity insertion method. In this, simply a nucleus is inserted into the mantle cavity or the live mussel. You know what is a mantle cavity? These animals are bivalve creatures. They have two shells, and the two shells underneath have a skin like structure called mantle. This mantle covers the soft parts. So, the space between the mantle tissue and the shell is called the mantle cavity. This is where a nucleus is inserted, and then in due course of time the nacreous layer of the shell is secreted over the implanted nucleus, and a shell attached pearl forms. Here you can see a half round pearl which is still attached to the shell, and here you can see a design pearl, a Sai Baba, which was again attached shell. This can be cut and removed from the shell and made into a pendant later on. Then coming to mantle implantation, there is two procedures that are followed: non-nucleated, wherein only a graft, I will explain what is a graft a little later again, is implanted in the mantle tissue of the recipient muscles, or with a small nucleus in the mantle tissue of the recipients along with a graft. In case of only graft, unattached irregular small pearls are produced. In case of a small nucleus insertion along with the graft, we get slightly small round pearls in this method. The maximum diameter in our Indian mussels in this method is about 3 or 3.5 mm in diameter. Then coming to the next complicated method, which I said, gonadal implantation. The products are unattached regular round pearls. Here you can see this is a gonadal area, this is a foot. Here you can see two pearls. Then here are the gonad implanted pearls produced in our Indian mussels. You can see one pearl which is almost measuring more than 8 mm in dia. This and this are two large pearls which you have produced. Normally I would say the average size is about 4 to 6 mm in diameter. Then I just mentioned that I will explain what is a mantle and what is a graft. I mentioned mantle is a skin like structure underneath the shell, following the contour of the shell over the soft portion of the animal. This mantle is very important because it regenerates the cellular portion of the animal. In fact, if you look into the cross section of the shell, it has a brownish outer periostracum, middle calcite layer, and innermost mother of pearl layer, which is very shining. All the three layers are structured by the mantle tissue, and the mantle is attached all along ventral margin following a line called pallial line. The mantle at this area of pallial line contains few billions of live cells which can secrete the innermost shining layer called nacreous layer. In fact, this mantle tissue is cut all along the pallial line like this, and both sides are trimmed, and from which small pieces around 2 to 3 mm square graft pieces are made from the donor muscles. Each graft piece, I would say, is a key note in the orchestra of biomineralization of a pearl. A pearl is nothing but calcium carbonate. I can explain about pearl in 3 different scientific languages. Physically, a pearl is a round shining object with a core and with a hardness of about 3.5 on Mohs scale, and with 2.7 or 2.8 specific gravity. Chemically, it contains calcium carbonate. Calcium carbonate in nature can exist both in organic and inorganic forms. In the organic form, it can exist as valerite crystals, aragonite crystals, and calcite crystals. A pearl contains only aragonite portion. Hence, the pearls which contain aragonite more than 90% have jewel quality. In the inorganic side of calcium carbonate, it can exist as calcium carbonate, calcium hydroxide, or calcium bicarbonate, which we are not concerned. However, when you treat a pond, this comes into picture because the mussels do get their calcium resource from the ambient waters, that is the calcium carbonate that is provided. Then you can see here the grafts that are collected from the donor mussel are implanted in the recipient mussels. Probably at this point of time you may ask me, what is a donor mussel and what is a recipient? When we collect the mussels, I mentioned 8 to 10 centimeter size mussels, obviously weighing around 50 grams in wet weight, are collected. The largest of those mussels constitute donor mussels, which will be sacrificed and mantle ribbons are taken. The rest of the mussels will be the recipient stock of mussels. Here in the mantle tissue implantation method, small pockets are made in the mantle tissue on the posterior ventral or dorsal aspect, and the mantle grafts collected with donor mussels are inserted. Here you can see 5 implantations that are already made. This is the left wall. A similar implantations can also be made on the right wall of the mantle lobe. Obviously, we can get nearly 10 pearls from each mussel through this method. And the third one is a gonad implantation method, in which the mussel is slightly open without causing injury to the ligament, anterector, postretractor muscles, and the operating zone is cleared. A small incision is made at the point where the foot ends up towards the gonad, that is towards the dorsal side. A small incision is made, a pocket is cut with specialized instruments, and the mantle graft implanted. After the mantle graft is implanted, a nucleus also is implanted in close proximity to the mantle graft that is already implanted. So, the success or failure depends largely on experience, expertise, and also health of the muscles at this crucial surgical stage. Then comes the post-operative care. The muscles after surgery are very weak. If you transfer them directly to the pond environment, it causes mortality, or also it results in infection and also death of the muscles. To prevent that, we keep the implanted muscles for about 10 days in this sort of small cement tanks, each is having about 200 liters of water, pre-treated with chloramphenicol at 1 to 2 ppm. The idea is to provide a broad spectrum antibiotic to prevent any fungal or bacterial infection, so that the wound healing takes place. The wound that was created while making incisions, while implantation is done here, and towards the 7th or 8th day green water is added, so that the animal resumes normal feeding activity and becomes ready by the 10th day for transfer to the pond environment. Then comes the last phase or penultimate phase, the pond culture. These mussels, these implanted mussels after post-operative care are taken in bunches like this and suspended in the pond environment at a depth of about 0.5 to 1 meter. Normally the ponds, the pearl culture ponds will be about 1 to 1.5 to 2 meters in depth. Perhaps you may ask me, what are the physico-chemical requirements of pond water or pearl culture pond water? I would say the natural ponds having runoff supply of water or canal water supply or riverine water supply are ideal than the borewell water supplied ponds. Then the water must be slightly alkaline, not very alkaline nor acidic. I would recommend the pH should be around 7 to 8 or 8.5 at the most. Then the ponds should harbor some green alga like chlorococcum, chlorella, Sanidesmus, etc., not the blue green alga like microcystis or the dinoflagellates euglena. They are dangerous for the pearl bearing mussels. So, the ponds without toxic algal blooms and also devoid of macrophytes, larger aquatic plants like Pistia, Salvinia, Nilambo, etc. All these things should be avoided in pearl culture ponds. So, these are the basic requirements as far as the physico-chemical conditions are concerned. The mussel bunches are kept at about 0.5 to 1 meter depth. Obviously, I mentioned 0.5 to 1 meter because in winter where the temperatures are very cool, they can be kept at 0.5 meter depth. When the summer, when surface water gets heated up, the mussels can be brought down to 1 meter low instead of 0.5 meters. So, the adjustment can be made by using PVC platforms or bamboo platforms. Then coming to the nutrition, fortunately these mussels are mucoid filter feeders. They cannot accept any artificial feed for their growth or pearl production. This is an extremely important management advantage in pearl culture. If you look into catfish culture, prawn culture or fish culture, the major costless input is feed. Here it is totally avoided, except we keep this sort of cement tanks all along the pond bund and fertilize. So, since our country is a tropical country, the water becomes green mostly with chlorella or chlorococcum in about week to 10 days time, and this algal enriched green water is periodically led into pearl culture environment, so that the alga forms the best choice natural food for the mussels that are going to give us the pearls. Here you can see 4 different colored pearls produced by the same Indian mussels, Lamellus marginalis and Lamellus coreanus. You may ask me how the color is achieved. There are simple methods available: biological, chemical and physical. In the biological methods, we vary the donor mussel. Instead of making a homograft, we make xenograft. Say for example, from Parisia corrugata to Lamellus marginalis, the graft is taken, the color will become totally different. Similarly, by varying the donor mussel and recipient mussel, we can produce different colored pearls. That is one approach. But then there are biological limitations. We cannot produce all the colors available with these available species. But then fortunately the mussels have low what they call immune system response. Hence, we can use different donor muscles for different pearl production. The other methods are chemical methods. We can use certain dyes which makes the pearls permanent coloration. These are the normal pearls. Here you can see different colored pearls by using certain chemicals, and these chemicals are not washed out either with alcohol or with water, they are permanent. The third method is a physical method. By using a particular dose of gamma rays and timing, we can make the same white pearls totally black, and the black pearls command highest market price. So, by simply following post operative value addition procedures, we can enhance the value of pearl several times, either through biological means or chemical means or physical means. I will just briefly touch upon the advantages and plus points from our country's side. India's strategic location, the trade route in Southeast Asia, traditional marketing environment both at Bombay and Hyderabad, conducive warm climate. Imagine China and Japan, which are temperate or cooler areas, where it takes more than 3 to 4 years to produce a pearl, but in India it takes less than or sometimes about 1 year only. So, we have conducive climate. Then vast resources of fresh water with abundant stocks of natural mussels, and importantly the availability of teeming rural artisan farmers are some of the advantages for development of inland pearl culture technology in the country. This is a symbolic representation. I just mentioned our country has been importing pearls to the tune of about 300 billion rupees officially. Obviously, I wish that all of us can join hands and train the people and make the country or flood the country with our own produce, our own pearls.
మన ఈ ఉన్నత విద్యా కార్యక్రమాలపై మీ సందేహాలు, సలహాలు, సూచనలు పంపించవలసిన చిరునామా డైరెక్టర్ ఆడియో విజువల్ ప్రొడక్షన్ అండ్ రీసెర్చ్ సెంటర్, డాక్టర్ బిఆర్ అంబేద్కర్ ఓపెన్ యూనివర్సిటీ, ప్రొఫెసర్ జి రామిరెడ్డి మార్గ్, రోడ్ నెంబర్ 46, జూబ్లీ హిల్స్, హైదరాబాద్ 500033.